The sleek human starship Endeavour sliced through the violet skies of Zephyria, its silvery hull reflecting the light of twin suns. Inside the cockpit, Ambassador Sarah Chen gripped her seat's armrests, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. After years of preparation, humanity was about to make first contact with an advanced alien civilization. Entering Zephyrian airspace, announced Captain Reyes, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "Prepare for landing, Ambassador." Sarah nodded, smoothing down her formal attire, a blend of traditional Earth fashion and elements designed to appeal to alien sensibilities. The outfit's fabric shimmed with subtle iridescence, mimicking the bioluminescent flora they'd observed on the planet's surface. As the Endeavour touched down on the designated landing pad, Sarah took a deep breath. "Remember," she said to a small team of diplomats and scientists, "we're here to broker peace and establish trade relations. The Zephyrians have been cautious but open to dialogue. Let's make a good first impression." The ship's airlock hissed open, revealing a landscape that took Sarah's breath away. Towering crystal spires stretched towards the sky, their facets refracting light in dazzling patterns. Between the structures, lush gardens of alien vegetation pulsed with bioluminescence, creating an ever-shifting tapestry of color. A delegation of Zephyrians approached. Their bodies were tall and lithe, covered in iridescent scales that shimmered as they moved. Large, multifaceted eyes regarded the humans with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. The lead Zephyrian stepped forward, its voice a melodious trill that Sarah's universal translator rendered into English. "Welcome, humans, to Zephyria. I am High Counselor Zixara. We have long awaited this moment." Sarah bowed deeply, a gesture her team mirrored. "High Counselor, I am Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth. We come in peace and friendship, eager to learn from your people and share our own knowledge." Zixara's head tilted, a gesture Sarah hoped indicated approval. "Your words are pleasing, Ambassador. But as you will learn, actions speak louder than any language. Come, let us retire to the council chambers where we may speak more intimately." As they followed the Zephyrian delegation, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Zixara's words and simple diplomacy. The Crystal City buzzed with activity, alien citizens pausing in their daily routines to stare at the human visitors. Sarah noticed that many of the Zephyrians wore intricate patterns on their scales, possibly indicating social status or profession. Inside the council chambers, Sarah marveled at the organic architecture. The walls seemed alive, pulsing gently with an inner light. Zixara gestured for the humans to sit at a circular table that appeared to grow from the floor itself. "Before we begin formal negotiations," Zixara said, "there is a matter of great importance we must discuss. A sacred custom that all visitors to our world must observe." Sarah leaned forward, intrigued. "Of course, High Counselor. We've studied your customs extensively and are prepared to respect your traditions." A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the assembled Zephyrians. Zixara's multifaceted eyes glimmered. "I think you'll find, Ambassador, that no amount of study could have prepared you for this particular custom." The atmosphere in the chamber shifted, tension crackling like static electricity. Sarah felt a prickle of unease at the base of her spine. "Please enlighten us," she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. Zixara's next words sent a shockwave through the human delegation. "To prove the purity of your intentions and your commitment to true understanding between our peoples, you, Ambassador Chen, must participate in the rite of Salthor. You must, how to phrase this delicately, bring pleasure to every unbonded female of our ruling caste." Stunned silence fell over the human delegation. Sarah's mind reeled, certain she had misheard, or that something had been lost in translation. I beg your pardon," she stammered. Zixara continued, seemingly oblivious to the human's discomfort. "It is an ancient tradition, dating back to the dawn of our civilization. We believe that true diplomacy can only be achieved through the most intimate of connections, By sharing pleasure with our people, you open yourself to our very essence. Sarah's diplomatic training kicked in, helping her maintain composure despite the shocking revelation. High Counselor, while we respect your customs, surely you understand that this request is unprecedented from our perspective. On Earth, such intimate acts are a matter of personal choice, not diplomatic protocol. A low murmur rippled through the Zephyrian delegation. Zixara's scales flashed with patterns Sarah couldn't interpret. Ambassador, this is not a request. It is a requirement. Without participating in the Rite of Salfor, no further negotiations can take place. Your ship will be asked to leave, and all hopes of an alliance between our peoples will be dashed. Captain Reyes leaned in, whispering urgently in Sarah's ear. Ambassador, this is insane. We can't possibly agree to this. It's a violation of every protocol we have. Sarah held up a hand, silencing him. Her mind raced, weighing the monumental importance of this first contact against the shocking nature of the Zephyrian demand. Years of preparation, the hopes of humanity for peaceful expansion into the galaxy, all of it hung in the balance. High Counselor, Sarah said carefully, this is unexpected. Might I request some time to confer with my team and contact our superiors? This decision cannot be made lightly. Zixara inclined their head. Of course, Ambassador. We understand this may be challenging for your species to comprehend. You have until the rising of our third moon to give us your answer. But know this, there can be no compromise on the Rite of Salfor. It is the foundation upon which all our interspecies relations are built. As the human delegation was escorted to their quarters, Sarah's mind whirled with the implications. How could she possibly explain this to Earth's leadership? How could she even contemplate agreeing to such a demand? And yet, the consequences of refusal loomed large, the loss of a potential ally, the setback to humanity's expansion into the stars. In the privacy of their assigned chambers, Sarah's team erupted into heated debate. Some argued vehemently against even considering the Zephyrian demand, while others reluctantly pointed out the potential benefits of compliance. We can't seriously be considering this, Dr. Elara Voss, the team's phenobiologist, exclaimed. It's unethical, not to mention potentially dangerous. We have no idea about Zephyrian biology or the possible consequences of intimate contact. Sarah massaged her temples, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her. I understand the concerns, believe me, but we also have to consider the bigger picture. This could be humanity's only chance to forge an alliance with an advanced alien civilization. The scientific and cultural exchange alone could propel us forward by centuries. As the debate raged on, Sarah found herself drawn to the chamber's window. The alien landscape stretched out before her, beautiful and utterly foreign. In the distance, she could see the third moon beginning its slow ascent. Time was running out. Soon, she would have to make a decision that could alter the course of human history. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, all hinging on a shocking alien custom that challenged everything Sarah thought she knew about diplomacy and first contact. With a deep breath, Sarah turned back to her team. All right, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her mind. Let's contact Earth. They need to know what we're facing. And then we need to find a way to turn this impossible situation to our advantage. As the communication array hummed to life, Sarah steeled herself for the most difficult briefing of her career. Whatever came next, one thing was certain. Humanity's first encounter with the Zephyrians was about to take a turn no one could have predicted. Cultural clash. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern faces of Earth's Security Council. Sarah Chen took a deep breath, steeling herself for the difficult conversation ahead. Ambassador Chen, General Hawthorne's gravelly voice filled the room. Your preliminary report is troubling, to say the least. Please tell me this is some kind of miscommunication. Sarah shook her head, her expression grim. I'm afraid not, General. The Zephyrians are quite clear on this point. The Rite of Salfor is non-negotiable if we wish to proceed with diplomatic relations. A cacophony of voices erupted from the holographic display, each council member voicing their shock and outrage. Sarah waited patiently for the uproar to subside. "This is preposterous," exclaimed Dr. Yuzuki Nakamura, the council's chief xenanthropologist. "We cannot possibly agree to such a demand. It goes against every ethical standard we hold." Sarah nodded, acknowledging the sentiment. "I understand the ethical concerns, believe me, but we need to consider the bigger picture. The Zephyrians possess technology far beyond our own. An alliance could advance human civilization by centuries." The room fell silent as the weight of the decision settled over them. Finally, President Alvarez spoke, her voice measured. "Ambassador Chen, you're our expert on the ground. What do you recommend?" Sarah took a moment to gather her thoughts. "I believe we need to find a way to satisfy the Zephyrian custom without compromising our own values. Perhaps there's a way to reinterpret or adapt the rite of Salfor to something more culturally appropriate for humans." The council members exchanged glances, considering the proposal. General Hawthorne leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "And if they refuse any compromise?" "Then we walk away," Sarah said firmly. "But I believe it's worth attempting to bridge this cultural divide. The potential benefits are too great to ignore without exhausting every option." After further deliberation, the council grudgingly agreed to Sarah's approach. As the holographic display winked out, she turned to her team. "All right, people, we have work to do. Dr. Voss, I need you to dig deeper into Zephyrian biology and cultural practices. Captain Reyes, coordinate with the ship's engineers. We might need some creative solutions." The next few hours were a whirlwind of research and brainstorming. Dr. Voss's findings proved invaluable, revealing that Zephyrian biology was even more alien than they had initially thought. It seems that what we perceived as pleasure in their description of the rite of Salfor might be something entirely different, Dr. Voss explained, gesturing to a holographic display of Zephyrian anatomy. Their neural pathways suggest that they experience a form of shared consciousness during intimate contact. It's less about physical pleasure and more about a melding of minds. Sarah's eyes widened as the implications sank in. So when they speak of bringing pleasure, they're really talking about a deep psychic connection. Dr. Voss nodded. "Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting. The Zephyrians have highly developed electromagnetic sensory organs. They quite literally feel the electrical impulses of other beings." A plan began to form in Sarah's mind. So theoretically, if we could simulate the right kind of electromagnetic field, we might be able to satisfy the requirements of the rite without actually engaging in physical intimacy, Dr. Voss finished, a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. With renewed purpose, the team set to work. Captain Reyes and the ship's engineers began modifying a series of handheld devices to emit carefully calibrated electromagnetic pulses. Meanwhile, Sarah prepared herself for the delicate task of presenting this alternative to the Zephyrians. As the third moon reached its zenith, Sarah stood before the Zephyrian High Council once more. Zixara regarded her with those unsettling multifaceted eyes. "Have you reached a decision, Ambassador Chen?" Sarah stepped forward, her head held high. "High Counselor, we have. We are prepared to participate in the rite of Salfor, but we propose an adaptation that we believe honors the spirit of your tradition while respecting our own cultural boundaries." A ripple of surprise passed through the assembled Zephyrians. Zixara leaned forward, intrigued. "Explain." With careful words, Sarah laid out their proposal. She spoke of the human concept of personal space, the importance of consent in their culture, and the deep respect they held for the Zephyrian traditions. As she explained the electromagnetic device they had developed, she saw a spark of interest in Zixara's eyes. "You believe this device can simulate the connection we seek?" Zixara asked, their voice tinged with skepticism. Sarah nodded. "We do, and we're prepared to demonstrate its effectiveness immediately." A tense moment of silence followed as the Zephyrian Council conferred among themselves. Finally, Zixara turned back to Sarah. Your proposal is unexpected, but it shows a willingness to adapt and a deep consideration for our ways. We will allow this demonstration." Relief washed over Sarah, but she knew they weren't out of the woods yet. Everything hinged on whether the hastily constructed device could truly satisfy the Zephyrian requirement. As the first unbonded female Zephyrian stepped forward, Sarah activated the device. The air hummed with invisible energy. The Zephyrian scales rippled with color, and a soft gas escaped their mouth. "Extraordinary," the Zephyrian murmured. "I can feel your essence, your thoughts, your very being." One by one, the unbonded females experienced the device's effects. Each reaction was similar, a mix of surprise, pleasure, and deep understanding. As the last Zephyrian stepped back, all eyes turned to Zixara. The High Counselor was silent for a long moment, their scales shifting through a complex series of patterns. When they finally spoke, their voice was filled with a newfound respect. "Ambassador Chen, you have surprised us. Not only have you found a way to honor our tradition, but you have also shown us a new form of connection we had not considered. This adaptability, this ingenuity, it speaks well of your species." Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Thank you, High Counselor. We hope this demonstrates our commitment to understanding and respecting your culture, even as we navigate our differences." Zixara inclined their head. "Indeed it does. The right of Salfor is satisfied. We may now proceed with our negotiations in earnest." As the council chamber erupted in a flurry of activity, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They had overcome the first, nearly insurmountable hurdle, but she knew this was just the beginning. The real work of building a lasting alliance between humans and Zephyrians was still to come. Outside the crystal spires of the Zephyrian capital, the twin suns began to set, casting the alien landscape in a breathtaking array of colors. It was a new dawn for both species, full of challenges, but also brimming with the promise of a shared future among the stars. Unexpected alliance. As negotiations between humans and Zephyrians progressed over the following days, Sarah Chen found herself navigating an increasingly complex web of alien politics and cultural nuances. The electromagnetic device had satisfied the right of Salfor, but it had also opened up new avenues of communication and understanding that neither species had anticipated. One evening, as Sarah was reviewing trade proposals in her quarters, a soft chime indicated an unexpected visitor. To her surprise, it was Lixia, a young Zephyrian scientist who had been present during the rite. "Ambassador Chen," Lixia said, her scales shimmering with nervous energy. "I hope I'm not intruding, but there's a matter of great importance I need to discuss with you. In private." Intrigued, Sarah invited her in. "Of course, Lixia, what's on your mind?" The Zephyrian glanced around nervously before speaking in a hushed tone. "Your device, it's revealed something to us. Something that many of us have long suspected, but never dared to voice openly." Sarah leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. "Go on." "The right of Salfor," Lixia continued, "it's not just a diplomatic custom, it's a means of control. The ruling coast uses it to read the minds of visitors, to ensure they can manipulate negotiations in their favor." The revelation hit Sarah like a thunderbolt, but our device, it didn't allow for that kind of deep mental probing, did it? Lixia's scales flashed with what Sarah had come to recognize as amusement. "No, it didn't, and that's precisely why I'm here. Your invention has given voice to a growing movement among our people. We want change, Ambassador Chen. We want to end the manipulative practices of the ruling caste and forge genuine connections with other species." Sarah's mind raced with the implications. This was far beyond the scope of her mission, potentially explosive information that could upend the entire diplomatic process. "Lixia, I appreciate you sharing this with me, but I'm not sure how I can help. As an ambassador, I can't interfere in your internal politics." The young Zephyrian's eyes glimmered with intensity. "We're not asking you to interfere directly, but your presence, your ideas, they're already changing things. We need your help to show our people that there's another way, a better way to interact with the galaxy." Before Sarah could respond, an alarm blared through the complex. Lixia's scales paled. "They know I'm here. I have to go. Please, Ambassador, think about what I've said. The future of both our species may depend on it." As Lixia slipped out, Sarah's mind whirled with this new information. She quickly gathered her team, sharing what she'd learned. Captain Reyes shook his head in disbelief. "This changes everything. If the ruling coast has been manipulating negotiations, how can we trust any of the agreements we've made?" Dr. Voss, however, saw an opportunity. This could be our chance to make a real difference, to help the Zephyrians evolve beyond these archaic practices. Sarah paced the room, weighing their options. "We need to tread carefully. If we're seen as supporting a rebellion, it could not only derail our mission, but potentially spark an interstellar incident." As they debated their next move, a commotion outside caught their attention. Sarah rushed to the window to see a group of Zephyrians being led away in restraints, Lixia among them. The young scientist's eyes met Sarah's for a brief moment, filled with a mix of fear and hope. In that instant, Sarah made her decision. "We can't stand by and do nothing. These Zephyrians reached out to us in trust. We owe it to them, and to the principles we stand for, to help." "But how?" Dr. Voss asked. "We're outnumbered and on foreign soil." A sleek smile crept across Sarah's face. "We do what humans do best. We innovate." Over the next few hours, the human team worked feverishly. They modified their electromagnetic devices, turning them into short-range communicators that could bypass Zephyrian monitoring systems. They also reprogrammed some of their survey drones to act as eyes and ears throughout the complex. As the twin suns rose, bathing the crystal city in ethereal light, Sarah put their plan into action. Using the modified devices, they made contact with Lixia and her fellow dissidents, coordinating a daring escape. Captain Reyes, using his tactical expertise, created a diversion by accidentally overloading some of their equipment, causing a localized power surge that disrupted Zephyrian security systems. In the ensuing chaos, Sarah and Dr. Voss slipped away to rendezvous with the escaped Zephyrians. "I knew we could count on you," Lixia said as they regrouped in an abandoned section of the crystal spires. "But what now? The ruling coast will never allow us to speak out." Sarah's eyes gleamed with determination. "They won't have a choice. We're going to use their own customs against them." With the help of the rebel Zephyrians, Sarah's team quickly learned about an ancient law, long forgotten by most, that allowed for a public challenge to the ruling caste's authority. It was a risky move, but if successful, it would force the High Council to address the concerns of the reformers openly. As word of the challenge spread through the city, tension mounted. The ruling coast, caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events, scrambled to maintain control. But the genie was out of the bottle. Ordinary Zephyrians, long kept in the dark about the true nature of their leadership's powers, began to ask questions. The day of the challenge arrived, and Sarah stood before the assembled Zephyrian populace, her heart pounding but her resolve firm. High Counselor Zixara regarded her with a mixture of anger and grudging respect. "You play a dangerous game, Ambassador Chen," Zixara said, their voice carrying across the silent crowd. "You risk not only your mission but the future of relations between our species." Sarah met the High Counselor's gaze unflinchingly. "With all due respect, High Counselor, it is your actions that have put our relations at risk. A true alliance can only be built on honesty and mutual respect, not manipulation and hidden agendas." And so, before the assembled Zephyrians, and with the eyes of two civilizations upon them, Sarah Chen began to speak. She talked of trust and transparency, of the power of genuine connection over coercion. She spoke of the potential for both species to grow and evolve together, learning from each other's strengths and differences. As she spoke, she could see the impact of her words rippling through the crowd. Scales shimmered with new colors, representing emotions and thoughts that had long been suppressed. The air thronged with possibility and the promise of change. But even as hope began to bloom, Sarah knew that the real challenge was only beginning. The ruling coast would not give up their power easily, and the path to reform would be fraught with obstacles. Yet, as she looked out at the sea of alien faces, now alive with newfound purpose, she felt a surge of optimism. Human ingenuity and adaptability had brought them this far, bridging the gap between species that had once seemed insurmountable. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Sarah was confident that together, humans and Zephyrians could forge a new path to the stars. As the twin suns set on this pivotal day, casting the crystal city in a rainbow of refracted light, Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile. The future was uncertain, but it was bright with possibility. The real work of building a lasting alliance, one based on genuine understanding and mutual respect, was just beginning. Escalating conflict. The aftermath of Sarah Chen's public challenge sent shockwaves through Zephyrian society. In the days that followed, the Crystal City buzzed with debate and unrest. The ruling caste, their authority questioned for the first time in centuries, scrambled to maintain control. Sarah and her team found themselves at the center of a growing movement for change. Lixia and other reform-minded Zephyrians looked to the humans for guidance and support, seeing in them a model for a more open and equitable society. However, not all Zephyrians welcomed this upheaval. A significant portion of the population, particularly those who benefited from the old system, viewed the humans with increasing suspicion and hostility. One morning, as Sarah was preparing for another round of negotiations, Captain Reyes burst into her quarters, his face grim. "Ambassador, we've got a problem. Our ship's been sabotaged." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Sabotaged? How badly?" "Bad enough," Reyes replied. "The main propulsion system is fried. We're grounded until we can get replacement parts, which we can only get from the Zephyrians," Sarah finished, understanding the gravity of the situation. They were now effectively stranded on an alien world in the midst of political turmoil that they had helped ignite. As news of the sabotage spread, tensions in the city reached a boiling point. Protests erupted in the streets, with reformers clashing with traditionalists. The crystal spires, once a symbol of Zephyrian unity and advancement, now echoed with the sounds of conflict. High Counselor Zixara demanded an emergency meeting with Sarah. As she entered the council chambers, she could feel a hostility radiating from the assembled Zephyrian leaders. "Ambassador Chen," Zixara's voice was cold, their scales a dark, roiling pattern. "Your actions have brought our world to the brink of civil war, and now we find evidence that your people are constructing weapons in secret." Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "Weapons? That's absurd. We've done no such thing." Zixara gestured, and a holographic display flickered to life, showing schematics of what appeared to be advanced energy weapons. "These plans were discovered in your ship's database. How do you explain this?" Sarah's mind raced. The schematics were clearly fake, but whoever had planted them had done a convincing job. She realized with a sinking feeling that they had walked into a carefully laid trap. "These are forgeries," she said firmly. "We came here in peace, and we've maintained that stance despite the challenges we faced. I demand an investigation into these false accusations." But her words fell on deaf ears. The ruling caste had found the excuse they needed to discredit the human visitors and, by extension, the reform movement. As Sarah was escorted back to the human quarters, now under heavy guard, she saw the city in turmoil. Zephyrian security forces clashed with protesters in the streets. The once beautiful crystal structures were marred by scorch marks and cracks. Back with her team, Sarah quickly brought them up to speed. Dr. Voss shook her head in disbelief. "They're framing us as warmongers to undermine the reform movement. It's brilliant in a twisted way." "We need to clear our names," Sarah said, pacing the room. "And fast. If we don't, this situation could escalate into full-blown war." Captain Reyes, ever the tactician, spoke up. "We need to find out who planted those schematics. If we can prove we were framed, we might be able to turn this around." Sarah nodded, a plan forming in her mind. Lixia. She and her allies might be able to help us investigate from the inside. But with communications monitored, how do we reach them? Dr. Voss's eyes lit up. The electromagnetic devices. We could modify them to transmit coded messages through the crystal structures themselves. The Zephyrians wouldn't be looking for that kind of signal. As the team set to work, the situation outside continued to deteriorate. Reports came in of skirmishes breaking out across the planet. The reformers, emboldened by the humans' example, were pushing back against centuries of oppression. But the ruling caste, with their superior technology and entrenched power, were responding with increasing force. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her. Their mission of peace had inadvertently pushed an alien civilization to the brink of war. Now they were caught in the middle, perceived as a threat by both sides. As night fell, casting the crystal city in eerie, fractured shadows, Sarah stood at the window of their quarters, watching the chaos unfold below. Fires burned in distant parts of the city, and the air was filled with the strange, keening sound of Zephyrian alarms. "What have we done?" she whispered to herself. But even as despair threatened to overwhelm her, Sarah felt a familiar spark of human determination ignite within her. They had caused this crisis, however unintentionally, and now it was up to them to find a solution. She turned back to her team, her eyes blazing with renewed purpose. "All right, people. We're in a mess, but we're not beaten yet. We came here to build bridges between our species, and that's exactly what we're going to do, even if we have to tear down a few walls first." As the team huddled together, brainstorming plans and strategies, Sarah allowed herself a moment of grim reflection. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but also opportunity. If they could navigate this crisis, they might just forge a stronger, more genuine alliance than they had ever imagined possible. Outside, the twin moons of Zephyria rose over the turbulent city, their pale light glinting off the fractured crystal spires. In the heart of an alien storm, a small group of humans prepared to fight not with weapons, but with the most powerful tools at their disposal: ingenuity, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to peace. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of their mission, but potentially the future of two civilizations. As Sarah Chen steeled herself for the challenges ahead, she knew one thing for certain: humanity's first steps into the galactic community would be remembered for generations to come, for better or for worse. Human ingenuity. As dawn broke over the chaotic Zephyrian landscape, Sarah Chen and her team put their daring plan into action. Using their modified electromagnetic devices, they established a secure communication channel with Lixia and her allies through the crystal structures of the city itself. "We need to find proof of who framed us," Sarah explained to Lixia through the makeshift comm system. "Can your people access the central data archives?" Lixia's voice crackled back, tinged with determination. "It won't be easy, but we have supporters in the archive division. What exactly are we looking for?" Dr. Voss chimed in. "Any records of unauthorized access to our ship's systems or unusual data transfers in the days leading up to the accusation." As Lixia's team began their covert investigation, Sarah turned to Captain Reyes. "We need a backup plan. If we can't clear our names, we need a way to demonstrate our peaceful intentions unequivocally." Reyes nodded, his tactical mind already racing. "What if we could turn our weapon schematics into something beneficial? Show them we're not here to conquer, but to help." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Brilliant. Dr. Voss, how quickly can we adapt our terraforming technology to Zephyrian environmental needs?" For the next several hours, the human team worked feverishly. Dr. Voss and her scientific team pored over Zephyrian environmental data, adapting Earth's cutting-edge terraforming techniques to address the alien world's ecological challenges. Meanwhile, Captain Reyes and his security personnel repurposed their defensive equipment into environmental scanning and purification devices. As tensions in the city reached a fever pitch, with clashes between reformers and traditionalists intensifying, Lixia's voice suddenly burst through their comm system. "We found something. There's evidence of a high-level security breach in your ship's systems, originating from the High Council chambers themselves." Sarah's heart raced. This was the break they needed. But before they could act on this information, alarms blared throughout the complex. The door to their quarters burst open, revealing a squad of heavily armed Zephyrian security forces. Ambassador Chen, the lead guard, announced, "By order of High Counselor Zixara, you and your team are under arrest for conspiracy and acts of aggression against the Zephyrian people." Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We will come peacefully, but I demand an audience with the full council. We have evidence that will exonerate us and reveal the true threat to your people." As they were led through the crystal corridors, Sarah could see the city in turmoil through the translucent walls. The once beautiful structures were marred by conflict, and the air was thick with tension. In the Grand Council chamber, High Counselor Zixara and the other leaders waited, their scales shimmering with barely contained anger. "You have brought chaos to our world, Ambassador Chen," Zixara declared. "What possible evidence could justify your actions?" Sarah stood tall, her voice ringing clear through the chamber. "High Counselor, members of the Council, we came to your world in peace, seeking alliance and mutual understanding. We have been framed, and we can prove it." With a nod to Dr. Voss, Sarah activated a holographic display. It showed clear evidence of the security breach, tracing it back to the council chambers. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the assembled Zephyrians. "But more than that," Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger, "we want to show you the true purpose of our technology." With another gesture, the holographic display shifted, showing the adapted terraforming plans. "What you thought were weapon schematics are actually highly advanced environmental restoration systems. We offer them to you as a gift, a means to heal the damage done to your world by centuries of industrial development." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Zixara's scales shifted through a complex series of colors, reflecting their internal conflict. "Even if what you say is true, Ambassador, the damage is done. Our society stands on the brink of civil war because of your interference." Sarah nodded solemnly. "We understand the gravity of the situation we've unintentionally created. That's why we propose a joint human-Zephyrian effort to implement these environmental reforms. Let us work together, side by side, to heal your world. In doing so, we can bridge the divide between reformers and traditionalists and forge a new path forward for both our species." As she spoke, the holographic display came to life, showing simulations of the restored Zephyrian ecosystem. Barren crystal deserts transformed into lush, bioluminescent forests. Polluted waterways cleared, teeming with alien life. The very air seemed to shimmer with renewed vitality. A ripple of awe passed through the council chamber. Even the most hardened traditionalists couldn't deny the beauty and potential of what they were seeing. Lixia, who had managed to gain entry to the chamber, stepped forward. "High Counselor, esteemed members of the council, the humans have shown us a glimpse of what's possible when we open ourselves to new ideas. Let us embrace this opportunity for change, for the betterment of all Zephyrians." For a long moment, the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. Then slowly High Counselor Zixara's scales began to shift to a color Sarah had never seen before, a deep, resonant blue that seemed to pulse with newfound hope. "Ambassador Chen," Zixara said, their voice carrying a note of grudging respect, "your species continues to surprise us. We accept your proposal. Let this joint endeavor be the foundation of a new era of cooperation between our peoples." As the council chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some jubilant, others still skeptical, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. They had done it. Against all odds, human ingenuity and perseverance had turned a potential disaster into an opportunity for unprecedented growth and alliance. But even as she allowed herself a moment of triumph, Sarah knew that the real work was just beginning. Healing the rifts in Zephyrian society and implementing the ambitious environmental reforms would be a monumental task. Yet, as she looked around at her team, at Lixia and her fellow reformers, at the gradually warming faces of the Zephyrian Council, she felt a surge of optimism. Together, humans and Zephyrians would forge a new path to the stars, one of mutual respect, shared knowledge, and a commitment to preserving the wonders of the galaxy they were only beginning to explore. As the twin suns of Zephyria set on this pivotal day, casting the crystal city in a rainbow of refracted light, Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile. The future was uncertain, but it was bright with possibility. The real adventure was just beginning. Triumph of understanding. In the months that followed the dramatic council meeting, the crystal cities of Zephyria underwent a remarkable transformation. The joint Human-Zephyrian Environmental Restoration Project became the cornerstone of a new era of cooperation and mutual understanding between the two species. Sarah Chen, no longer just an ambassador, but now the lead coordinator of the restoration efforts, stood atop one of the tallest crystal spires, surveying the progress below. The once barren outskirts of the city now pulsed with new life, bioluminescent flora creating a breathtaking tapestry of light and color. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Lixia said, joining Sarah on the observation deck. The young Zephyrian scientist had become one of Sarah's closest allies and friends in the past months. Sarah nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "Sometimes I still can't believe how far we've come. There were moments when I thought we'd started an interstellar war." Lixia's scales shimmered with amusement. "Instead, you sparked a revolution. A peaceful one, thankfully." As they watched, a team of human and Zephyrian workers moved through the newly restored forest below, their movements synchronized as they tended to the alien flora. It was a sight that would have been unimaginable just a short time ago. "The Council has approved the next phase of the project," Lixia said, her voice tinged with excitement. "We're ready to begin implementing the atmospheric purification systems." Sarah turned to her friend, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "And how are the traditionalists taking that news?" Lixia's scales rippled in a pattern Sarah had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. "There's still resistance, of course. Change never comes easily. But more and more, even the staunchest traditionalists are seeing the benefits of our cooperation." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Voss, looking slightly out of breath. "Ambassador Chen, you need to see this," she said, activating a holographic display. The image showed a Zephyrian child playing with a human child in one of the newly restored parks. The Zephyrian was teaching the human how to communicate through scale patterns, while the human showed the Zephyrian how to play a simple earth theme. Both children were laughing, the sound transcending species barriers. "This footage has gone viral across both our worlds," Dr. Voss explained. "People are calling it the embodiment of our new alliance." Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. This was what they had been working towards, not just technological exchange or diplomatic agreements, but true understanding and connection between their peoples. As they watched the heartwarming scene, Captain Reyes joined them, his usual stern expression softened by a rare smile. "We've just received word from Earth," he announced. "The United Nations has officially approved the expansion of our mission. They want to establish a permanent human settlement here on Zephyria." The news sent a ripple of excitement through the group. A permanent settlement would cement the bonds between their species, opening up new avenues for cultural and scientific exchange. "And what does the High Council say about this?" Sarah asked, turning to Lixia. The Zephyrian scales glowed with a warm, welcoming hue. "They've already approved it. In fact, they're suggesting we build the settlement as a truly integrated community, humans and Zephyrians living and working side by side." As the implications of this decision sank in, Sarah felt a sense of awe at how far they had come. From the brink of interstellar conflict to the dawn of a new, shared civilization. "There's one more thing," Captain Rice added, his voice taking on a note of pride. Earth's scientific community has been analyzing the data from our environmental restoration project. They believe the techniques we developed here could be adapted to help address climate issues back home. Sarah's eyes widened. In their efforts to help the Zephyrians, they had inadvertently developed solutions that could benefit their own world as well. It was a powerful reminder of the unexpected fruits of cooperation and open-minded exploration. As the twin suns began to set, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold, the small group stood in companionable silence, watching the bustling activity in the city below. Humans and Zephyrians moved among the crystal structures and lush new growth, their interactions marked by a growing ease and familiarity. "You know," Sarah said softly, "when I first arrived here, I never could have imagined this outcome. The rite of Salfo, the political upheaval, the accusations of warmongering. There were so many moments when it all could have gone terribly wrong." Lixia placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder, her touch conveying understanding across the barriers of species. But it didn't, because when faced with challenges, both of our peoples chose understanding over fear, cooperation over conflict. Dr. Voss nodded in agreement. It's a powerful lesson, one I hope will carry with us as we continue to explore the galaxy. As night fell, the restored forests came alive with bioluminescence, mirroring the starry sky above. In that moment, looking out over the harmonious blend of human and Zephyrian achievements, Sarah Chen felt a profound sense of hope for the future. They had taken the first tumultuous steps into a larger galactic community. There would undoubtedly be more challenges ahead, more alien cultures to understand, more diplomatic crises to navigate. But they had proven that with patience, creativity, and an unwavering commitment to peace, even the most daunting cultural divides could be bridged. As Sarah and her team turned to head back into the Crystal Spire, ready to face whatever new adventures awaited them, she couldn't help but smile. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and humanity, hand in hand with their new Zephyrian allies, was ready to embrace it all. The story of their first contact, with all its misunderstandings and triumphs, would be told for generations to come. It would serve as a beacon of hope, a reminder that in the face of the unknown, understanding and cooperation could lead to outcomes more beautiful and profound than anyone could have imagined. And as the last light of the twin suns faded, giving way to a sky filled with alien constellations, Sarah Chen knew that this was only the beginning. The greatest adventure of all, the continued exploration and understanding of the cosmos, lay ahead, waiting to be written by humans and Zephyrians together.